Hi everyone, it's Kelly with Women for One. Today I had the honor of having a beautiful conversation with Karen Maezen Miller, author of Momma Zen and Hand Wash Cold. I will have both books posted and highlighted on my site, and I encourage any woman that just wants to slow down in life and really feel the beauty of why they're on this earth, to read, or just look at the intro at least and pick the book up. Karen is a mom, she's a wife, she's a Zen Buddhist priest, and she lives with her family in California, and we just had this incredibly heartfelt conversation about simplicity and beauty and how to really see those simple things that are just wonders of God, or whatever you define as God, spirituality in your life on a daily basis. It was just an incredible conversation that enlightened me, and I just opened my heart even more. Thank you, Karen, for speaking with me. I'm really honored that you took the time to do this. It's really nice also. I watched several of your videos on YouTube as well, and you know that we have this connection. I have a 12-year-old daughter that does gymnastics. She's a level 7.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. So I totally get the gymnastics and going and supporting and watching, and yeah, it's really wonderful.
It's been an interesting, everything's a lesson, but in particular, everything that my daughter does is just such a powerful lesson for me, because it never quite goes the way I think it will. And it's never a straight line.
No.
And she just comes up with, the most disarming truths, that she shares with me, that really point out how much I'm invested in my own idea of who she is, and what she does well, and what makes her successful, and what she should be doing, and what it means, and all of this stuff. And if your daughter's 12, then what you have to look forward to is 13. And of course, don't try to look forward to it. It will arrive right on schedule. And what a shock it is. It's just so clarifying. Because for me, what I've realized is just how tiresome I must be to her. She's just quite nearly fed up. How much I've exacted from her for my own sense of security and well-being. And it's been a marvelous year, because you really have to step back and give that space away where you're hovering, and measuring and comparing, and really something blooms. It always blooms.
Well, it's so interesting you say that, Karen, because when I do these conversations, what I search for before I start is something that I'm always trying to have an open heart, but really when it hits me in the heart, I start with that subject, and we already started, which is parenting, and it's right on for me right now because of my son is graduating. I have 6 kids. I have 3 stepchildren and 3 of my own children. Yes. And my son is graduating from high school, and my first one leaving. My stepdaughter left last year. And I'll tell you, the video you did with your daughter, and when you about being a parent, and when you took the camera and flash it out, looking out that window, I had just tears streaming down my face. Like, we're witnessing this beauty of these children. It's effortless, the parenting. And reading your book, you say the same thing. There's nothing to do except witness.
But, I'll tell you, my teacher told me, the effort of no effort is the hardest effort of all.
Yes.
And of course it pierces you. Because that's the opening.
Yes.
And out of that comes everything. The blood, really, it does, and the tears, the relief, the laughter, everything comes out of that. And, just understand that your whole life, this is really the only lesson. It's really the only lesson. And it's not that we're stupid. It's that we're we keep trying to think, okay, let me figure it out. Okay, now I'm going to do it this way. And, so naturally, we have to go through that process over and over and over again. And then just by the tiniest of degrees, just by the little, millimeters, maybe we'll have a little more trust.
Right.
A little more, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can give way and bend. We can have latitude.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying trust, because, when I was 20, I asked an Indian guru, I wrote to her and said, tell me what surrender means. And she said, come live with me. So I did. But my whole life has been about learning to trust and surrender to what is, for me personally.
Of course, all of our lives are about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because because we're human beings. And, we are really crippled by our aptitudes. We're so blessed, but we take what are really the marvelous function, the marvelous capacities that we have to understand, to communicate, to witness. We take these marvelous things and we turn them into our hindrances.
Yes.
Do you have a dog? I know you said 6 kids.
And my youngest is my daughter, and my other two.
Do you have any dogs? Do you have a dog, a cat, a fish?
I have a dog. His name is Yogi.
Your dog's name is Yogi?
Yes, he's my little Yogi.
Okay, well, the dog doesn't have these problems.
I know.
That's kind of what I was going to get to. The dog doesn't have these problems. The dog is unencumbered.
Mm-hmm.
The dog is purely present.
Mm-hmm.
The dog is quite direct. And pure love.
Yes.
Now, if we're neurotic, of course our pets are neurotic. If we're neurotic, doesn't mean our children are neurotic, et cetera, et cetera. That's almost a given.
Mm-hmm.
But you can learn so much from life itself around you. Our children are an example, but everything is an example.
Yes.
Everything is teaching us constantly, constantly, constantly. We don't practice to acquire something. We practice to let go.
Yes, and I've heard you say that over and over again. Everywhere I see that statement of yours. It hits me.
People will say to me, because we have adapted a language that sounds like, just in modern life, we have adapted a language that sounds like it's evolved and sounds like it's spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And we all want to be spiritual, and we all want to be evolved, but we have this saying, something like we'll say, well, I'm going to hold space for you. And I see that, and I want you to know it makes me just, it makes me puke. I can be really direct. Because I'm looking at it, and on the very face of it, it's a lie. We want to hold the space. We try to hold. We think if I have the right recipe or the answer, I'll be able to hold and control and fix and determine and guarantee. But we can't hold anything. That's the reality of it. And so we're going to keep coming up with the reality, which is that, oh my God, even though I had this wise teaching, and even though I, did all this yoga, and even though it sounded, so spiritual, it doesn't work. It doesn't work to try to hold on to anything.
To try to hold on, it works to let go. Well, whatever works. Whatever works.
It's kind of one of those things. Well, or what was the old saying? Pry it from my cold, dead fingers. Can you hold on to anything? Absolutely not. You can't hold on to them. And then people think also, because of this way that we misapprehend the truth, they think that something like living in the present means freezing the present.
Yes.
Freezing the moment. They'll say to me, people will ask me, okay, well, if you are practicing being present, how do you ever get anything done? They'll say to me. And then I realize they're thinking that I'm sitting like a corpse in a corner, never moving.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God, forget what you think.
Right.
Don't hold on to that again. The only thing that ever gets done in the present.
Right.
And the more attention you pay to your life as it is, you know, where you are, as you are, what you see in front of you, the more you're going to get done. You're going to get done everything.
Yeah. I've noticed that more and more as you know, this glorification of busyness in the world, and it's like, you have to stop, just breathe.
Yeah, well, that's all out of that glorification of busyness and the pursuit of business. And what I also see, there's a lot of bragging about it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of bragging about how many unread emails you have in your inbox. And then people will share with the world that they are at inbox 0, which by inference, then we assume that they're a very important person. All kinds of talk like this, you know, which if in fact comes out of that very same fear that we have, that we can't hold on, you know, that we can't, you know, that nothing lasts.
Right.
You know, I say to somebody who has 2,000 unread messages in your inbox, delete your account. What's the purpose? That would give you inbox 0 right away.
Yeah, that's not going to be that hard.
Yeah, obviously it doesn't matter to you. So anyway.
Okay.
Wow.
Well,
you know, you see, parenting doesn't teach us anything more than any other aspect of our life. Mm-hmm. It's just that we're already invested heart and mind in it.
Yeah, okay.
We're already 100% involved in it. And we're already we're already naked. We're already torn wide open, and so it is very powerful.
Okay.
And I like to say to people that I practice with, the people who are, you know, who have, I mean this only ironically, the misfortune of being, you know, without children, is that they're lacking one advantage, I think, that the rest of us enjoy in our spiritual practice, which is that we live in the pure heaven and the pure hell of our parenting.
Yes.
Yeah. And therefore we have so much to work with.
Right.
We have lots of advantages. We can go straight to the head of the class. Mm-hmm. Our heart breaks every day.
Yes, it does. It's that's a good way to say it. So, yes, we can learn through every lesson in life, but yet the fact that we're so invested already, like just intimately invested in these children.
It's transcendent. It's transcendent.
Right.
And by that it means that it goes beyond right and wrong. It goes beyond good and bad. You know, it goes beyond my way or your way. Already. See, we can't disentangle. And that's really the point. Parenting gives us that visceral experience of being one. Being one.
Absolutely.
With someone or something that appears to be outside of us.
Right.
So there's the line. There's no line. It's our physical experience in giving birth. You know, at what point does this child who leaves your body, or you know, who comes to you by whatever means, at what point do they become someone else? You know, they're not someone else. You feel that connection that is eternal. You know, it comes from, it's like, man, it's more love than you ever thought love was. It feels entirely different than any other form of affection you've ever had. It encompasses every range of emotion.
Right.
Yes, you know, you love them and you hate them. and you never stop loving them, even though you hate them for a very short time. You know, and you can tell it's staggering in its dimension. Now that, from a spiritual point of view, actually from the point of view of truth, that feeling is the actual true reality of life. We just have a glimpse. We have an opening through our experience of being parents.
When you say true reality, what do you mean by that?
I mean the truth.
The truth. It's an opening to truth inside ourselves.
An opening to truth, which is that we are we can say in our minds, we say, oh yes, I understand. We're all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
We're all interdependent. We are not separate beings inhabiting an alien world.
Right, right.
We are all one. And we can say that, kind of academically and even scientifically.
Mm-hmm.
Scientifically, we can, in 6th grade science or whatever it is, in 8th grade science, we can understand that actually all matter is composed of, I don't know what the theory is now in space with electrons and protons and neutrons or whatever they call it, and that if we look at a really high-powered magnifier,
right,
we will, that really there's no separation between what appears to be the substance of me and the substance of you, or the substance of the chair and the floor and the walls, and we can accept that scientifically, and it's in fact law. It's physics. It's law. But to really experience it in our own lives, oh my gosh, that gives rise to compassion. We are not separate. Everything I say, think, and do impacts everything in my world.
Right. And with Women for One, and the reason I began this when I sat down and meditated and heard the words Women for One 2 years ago, and I heard the words authenticity, inspiration, and manifesting a future vision, not the doing, but just having women let go of their stories that they tell them, their limited narrative stories, because we're all interconnected and we're all the same. And
our stories are the same.
Our stories are the same. And I wanted to ask you about that because I saw you talked about letting go of the limited narrative stories. And can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, it's one of those things. It sounds like a paradox,
mm-hmm.
And it is. All truth is a paradox. In other words, at some point in our lives, we come to a point of self-reflection. We really examine ourselves. And, we all are always creating a narrative
mm-hmm.
As a way of making sense, of life as we experience it. But at a certain point, we mature. Begin again, get that, vision. Our perspective changes, and we no longer see in that story. We are no longer repeating that small story in which, typically, how it unfolds is that we are the victim.
Right.
We were kidnapped. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We were kidnapped by gypsies. Raised by wolves, and whatever that very small story is, we through our own experience and our own integration in the world, through our listening,
mm-hmm.
we stop repeating that same refrain in our head. We get sick of that story.
I get bored. I get bored with my stories. I go, you know what? I'm tired of this one.
When we get sick of our story, then we open up to the world. And then we no longer see and encounter other people as being mostly different from us.
Mm-hmm.
And then with a little bit of judgment. Well, they're either better off or worse off.
Right.
Or they're either this or that judgmental. And we simply let them enter our lives. And when we can listen non-judgmentally,
mm-hmm.
we think, oh my gosh, there's one story.
Yes.
There's one story, and I don't lose anything by this engagement. No one is my enemy. No one is arguing with me. No one is disabusing me. No one is taking away. I don't lose a thing. Instead, what I get is this much larger vision of life and my place within it. I felt after my daughter was born, I was very late to the game. I'm always the last to know, and I was 42, and I told myself for the longest time that I was 42. When my daughter was born. I mean, it's even shocking, but the truth is that she hadn't been born 6 weeks early. I'd have been 43. Really, so I was quite advanced, Either that or I was really quite delinquent. But one of my very first ahas was, oh my God, what my mother did, and her mother, and her mother, and her mother, and her mother, and through all space and time, this is what I had no idea that this is what life can ask of you, and this is what you sacrifice, this is what you do,
yeah.
This is what I had so much respect. I was filled with awe and gratitude. And that changes everything about your life when you are suddenly approaching it with awe and gratitude. Oh my gosh! Not a false sense of gratitude, like, let me count my blessings, and
right.
But just the reality is, oh my gosh, what a gift.
Yes. I just love the there's the one story, because when you said it to me, my vision was, you hear enough stories, you get bored with the victimhood of your own story, then you can move into non-judgment when you hear other stories. It's like, that camera that pans out on the earth and then you look down and there's one earth. That's what it was just beautiful when you said that, because that's the vision I saw. There's just, it's so beautiful. There's one story.
Yeah, and the truth is that the aspect of beautiful too. It is sure. I have a pond in my backyard. I have a pond. I have a big pond in my backyard, and the truth is that it's muddy. And that's what beauty is.
Yeah.
It is. There's an ache and there's pain in it. And there's trouble in it. And there's mud. In the water. But that's what makes it beautiful. It's not a designer, kind of perfect. It is perfect in its
imperfection, right? The beauty in imperfection. And when even the term women for one, there's one woman. Like when you said that about birthing, there's one woman, one story. And even when you really get a good view, it has nothing to do with gender. Right.
Yeah, it has nothing to do. But also, we live in the realm that we live in. We are both different and the same.
At the same time.
We have to see both sides of that, and not try and choose one side or the other. Live with that reality, which is that things are both what they seem and they're not what they seem.
Opposites coexisting. Yes. Yeah, opposites coexisting.
We have room so that we can say, oh yes, there's a time when we can see the distinctions and the differences, and we don't have to argue them to death. And then there's this other place that we can stand and we can see the unity. We can see the sameness, and take our solace in that.
Right.
So, needed of nothing.
And that's relationship as well. I was reading in your book about, in Hand Wash Cold, about your husband. I call him my husband, my current husband, which doesn't sound very good, but my husband. And saying, I love that you're so real. And it's like, my husband and I actually don't have a lot in common.
You should see the email that he sent me this morning.
I love it. I was like, oh, I love that. It's like, yes, because I tried to do.
That's really kind of the whole point of a relationship, is that it rubs you the wrong way. It had never rubbed you the wrong way, because that's how you get polished. That's how you get rounded. I had a great grandfather when I was little, and he was, among his many interests, and hobbies of, diversions, you might say, people used to collect rocks, and then they had these little kits where I think it's called a lapidary, where you grind the rocks, rocks against rocks, in this cylindrical kind of device, and the rocks go round and round and round. They hit one another, and they hit the walls, and they come out polished.
That's beautiful.
Perfectly round and polished and smooth. And the beauty then that's in them, which was in them all along,
right.
Wasn't some special coating that you put on, but yeah, that's what relationship is for. That's what relationship is for.
The mirror of working on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're going to see something you don't like. And then you're going to go, okay, well, this is, you can switch it out, or you can just stay with the fact, man, grind it out. This is tough. This is hard. How is it going to get easier? Well, the fastest way it's going to get easier is if I don't hold on. If I don't try to hold on to my way, what I want, the way it has to be.
Right.
You don't seek the agreement. Because the truth is, if I tell you I agree with you and I'm in an intimate relationship with you, I'm probably pretending. You learn how to say something so that it doesn't offend. Essentially, that's a really good lesson to learn.
Right.
How not to offend. Mm-hmm. How to give way. How to get along. Those are really useful lessons, but you don't learn them. You don't really learn them from people, from your best friends. Mm-hmm. You'd have no problem getting along with your best friends.
I don't mind those sometimes. Just a few of those.
The truth is that life is going to give you both of those things.
Right. Right. So when my mind goes, oh my gosh, I love you so much, kind of like my child, but you drive me crazy. It's probably a pretty deeply intimate relationship.
Yeah, and again, what makes it intimate is that investment, that commitment that you have.
Right.
It's really hard. It's hard to get out of. You know. Oh, and I hate to mix all these metaphors, but you see, this is how the lessons are everywhere. When you cook and you close that oven door. Mm-hmm. If you leave the oven door open, it's not going to cook. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You have to close the door and you have to turn up the heat, and that's transformative. What looks like soup turns into something solid. And
right.
what looks like dough turns into bread. That's the same thing.
Right.
The output of transformation. Yeah, it requires you to close the door and turn up the heat, and that you bake. And that is not pretty, and it's not fun.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
it's very, very useful.
Absolutely. And I have another question. I actually spoke with Congressman Tim Ryan recently about his book, A Mindful Nation. And mindfulness seems to be up right now, presenting itself a lot in my interviews. And I know you've...
What is happening now?
Mindfulness. Congressman Tim Ryan wrote a book, The Mindful Nation.
Yes, I've heard about that. Is he Buddhist?
No.
He's not Buddhist.
No.
What does he mean by mindfulness? Does he mean meditation?
Yes, living in the moment. He's actually has a bill. He's an Ohio senator, U.S. senator.
Yes, I've read about this. Yes, but I don't read many books on mindfulness. So.
Right, and his attempts are to get it into the mainstream education system, where we teach children social emotional intelligence. That's how he defines it, and living in the moment and in the presence of each moment into our education system. Which
I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, it already started a little bit.
Yes, I know, but I've also seen in Ohio that the school districts have started it and then they've had to pull back.
Really?
Because people find it, by and large, to be frightening. Because they ascribe it to religious ideology. And
I spoke with him about that, and I asked him about that, and I think the beauty of a man who is a former athlete and a Catholic, the beauty of who he is, and he's presenting as his story, advocating for this, I just think is a great thing for our country, at least moving in that direction. I think it'd be wonderful.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
Well, I was asking you about mindfulness. I wanted to get your take on the term and what's happening in our country around it and around the world, living in the moment. I know you've spoken about that in the essence of Buddhism. And just ask you to kind of talk on it for a few minutes.
Yeah, okay. So first about living in the moment, I just want you to know that you've never lived anywhere but in the moment.
Right.
So none of us is ever anywhere but in the moment. The only time it ever is in the moment. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it is not it is not really, it doesn't look any different or feel any different or behave any different. It's not some other kind of moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most important thing, I think, to understand, because it might sound as if it's something new, and it is not anything new. And in fact, it's totally unavoidable. If you are distracted and living in the moment, you are simply distracted and living in the moment. You are angry and living in the moment, you are angry in this moment. You know?
Okay.
And so one concern that I have about, it's not even a concern. Actually, frankly, it's not my business. But I do like to point out that they have never lived anywhere but in the moment. And that's all that we ever have. Again, getting back to that holding on. This is the reality of your life, is that it's right now. It's right now. It's right now. It's right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's right now. Okay. Now, mindfulness is simply the product of meditation. It's the outcome of meditation. It is the manifestation of your awakened mind.
The manifestation of your awakened mind.
Yes. Are you awake?
Yes.
Okay.
At this moment.
That's it. That's being mindful. Okay. Now, you are sitting someplace. Where are you sitting?
In my office.
There you go. That's it. So that is your mindful practice right now. Sitting in your office, being awake. Do you hear a noise?
Yes, I actually hear a garbage truck.
There you go. Okay. Everything constantly in your world, and Tracy, you're in Arizona. You similarly are in the middle of a universe in which you are the center. Okay? You never, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, you are witness to the universe unfolding. Wherever you are, as you are. The same thing is true for me. I'm sitting in my office. I have a chair around, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I think. What I first want people to realize is that it is nothing other than your life, and it is grounded in the reality of your life.
That's it.
So,
that's it. I mean, I'm getting. I'm just like experiencing it as you're talking.
Yeah, that's it. Now, at the same, you can look at this and say, "Oh, that's no big deal," but it's the only deal. It's the only deal. Anything else that you imagine is just your imagination. That is the sum total of reality. All of time, since the beginningless beginning. Everyone who's ever lived, everything that's ever happened, Kelly, has culminated in you sitting in your office at your chair.
It's pretty amazing if you think of it that way.
Amazing. There you go. That's what I want you to see.
It's awe-inspiring. Yeah.
It is. It's shocking almost. Okay. Now, who was the first, as far as we know it, who was the first human being, a man? It was nice that he was a man, because he might have been discounted if he wasn't. The first man who actually sat down and saw that was Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
And he used the term mindfulness, and essentially he meant a description of that experience of being totally aware of where you are as you are right now. Using your senses, which you've been given, to kind of experience your reality. Now, what I like to also, since I think, so meditation is a scary word for people.
Mm-hmm.
So they call it mindfulness.
Right.
But it doesn't exist without meditation. It doesn't exist without the practice of, the intentional practice of meditation. And I'm not even going to prescribe what the meditation has to be. There are lots of different methods.
Right.
But essentially what meditation is attention.
It's attention.
I even can take it farther than that and really make it totally neutral. A word like attention. So it means paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Where you are, whatever's happening, you're paying attention to. It doesn't mean that you pay attention to just a certain kind of thing, a right thing, a better thing, a happier thing. It's the practice of paying attention. Now, there are a lot of things in school already that you can do that make you pay attention. Did you ever play dodgeball?
Yes.
You would really want to pay attention.
Yes.
Dodgeball. Everything there's almost everything is teaching you to pay attention. What we've done, unfortunately, is we have created a world that is full of toys and distractions and gizmos, and we have made ourselves crazy, with stress, and so it's almost, I don't want there to be one more thing that we impose on each other as being something that we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what we do with things that we have to do?
What?
We don't do them. I read a story about, a school in Ohio that started this practice, and I know the intentions are good, but they brought into the schoolroom a Tibetan bell, a Tibetan meditation bell.
Okay.
And so then the parents got upset.
Oh, goodness.
And then the school board had to take a vote. And then they had to take it out of the school because... So, my view of it is that, of course, my whole life is about the practice of paying attention. And so I can't argue with that.
Right.
But I think we have to, in each place and time, introduce or practice a form of paying attention that is appropriate to the setting, that is as less of an imposition, and it isn't, we don't proselytize, we're not forcing. There's so much that will transform in our lives if we simply turn our head and speak to one another in person, face to face.
So very practical. Yes.
So that it doesn't seem like something new and improved and
or woo-woo or whatever they want to label it. Yes. It really is. That's why you wrote the book. I mean, the book is...
Well, actually, that wasn't even the reason why I wrote the book. I'm just saying that everything in your life is your practice. Everything that happens at school is the practice. Are there ways in which, in a classroom, instead of saying, okay, now kids, for the next 10 minutes, we're going to practice mindfulness, and this is going to turn you into a better human being, and you're going to do better in your school. Yes, that's one way. However, if a teacher in a classroom actually walks into her class and through class and speaks to students directly and faces the student and brings the student up and is actively engaged in a dynamic and vibrant way, in that room, those children will pay attention.
I love that so much, and I so align with that way of thinking, because I think in my life, since I was 17, I've, quote, labeled myself as a spiritual seeker. And then I went through a lot through my divorce about 7 years ago, lost one of my dear friends to cancer. And I decided that the whole let's layer on a cake of woo-woo spirituality, send love and light. I was kind of done with that. And I said, I have to start walking my talk and integrating into everything I do with Women for One and in my life what I've been attempting to learn my whole life, instead of just talking about it, if that makes sense. Is that what you're saying? I mean, really just practicing.
And I don't want it to seem like it's something special.
No,
or
it's
that
simple.
It's extra. No, the reality is that, I go to a Zen center, and I sit in a Zendo, and I put on robes, and I carry this lineage and this tradition that looks very weird. But that's what I do there.
Right.
That's what I do there. When I'm at home, I am not trying to convert. I'm not trying to alter. I'm not trying to fix anything in any situation I'm at. I realize that situation is trying to fix me. I need to bring myself into it. And I think that we have in our educational system, yes, and it's the nature of any system and any institution to become dead, and to fail in a way. But of course we have to change the way we teach because we're not teaching. Part of the reason why we're not teaching anymore is because we became so obsessed with performance.
Right.
This goes back to our first conversation, Kelly, about gymnastics. The teacher who is obsessed with performance is not teaching.
Right.
It's a hands-on, total engagement, total mutual. It's exciting.
Yes.
It's alive. If we can, what we have to do to restore a living educational environment is bring our schools back to life, not turn off the lights and tell everybody to lay on the floor.
That's so beautiful.
Empower those teachers to go, and this is going to take a lot of change, but empower those teachers to go into the room and surprise those students every day.
Yes.
Surprise yourself.
Engage them. Yes.
Yes. Love her job. And so many of them do. And we've saddled them with so many reasons why they can't teach and how, and what they have to do. We've made it all performance driven so that there's no life in it. You see?
Yes.
This goes exactly back to our... So yes, I appreciate when someone discovers something that's meaningful in their life.
Yes.
They can do two things. They can live it, in which case they are, without anybody knowing it, they are transmitting that truth, that life, that gift to everyone they need. They're giving it to them. They're giving them their full attention. Or they can write a book and say, okay, we have to institute this in every hospital in America. We have to institute this in every, child care center. We have to, teach, blah, 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 blah. That's the other way to do it. And for me personally, I see that my vow, the vow that I've taken, my commitment is to live that moment by moment by moment. And I'm given infinite opportunities to share that gift with everything and everyone I encounter.
And you just answered my next question, which was, what is your future vision for your life's purpose? And you just said it.
There you go. There you go. I mean, it's kind of like, well, yeah. And on a small level, what that means is that when I go to pick up my daughter today, and I hope this means something to you, Kelly, when I go to pick up my daughter and Tracy too, and she gets in the car, I better not poke her. And by that I mean I better just lay off. And not kind of let us live together in peace, where I'm not saying, how was the test? How was your lunch?
Right.
What happened? Who said what? Are you unhappy? Trying to get her to give me something to make me feel secure. Okay. That's the first thing that I need to do.
Okay.
And then the other thing that I need to do is take this practice and teaching that I have been so fortunate, so blessed, so redeemed, so saved by, and just do it. And by that doing, I invite everyone to do it with me.
That's
go
beautiful.
Where I'm asked to go, talk to people I'm asked to talk to, give whatever I'm asked to give, take whatever I'm asked to take.
Service and letting go is what I hear.
Yeah.
Service and letting go. It's beautiful. Well, you've blown my mind.
Well, that's a good start. Don't try to put it back together.
I so appreciate, I always ask people that I interview, these beautiful people, one piece of advice, but I feel like for my community and for Women for One, but I feel like the entire conversation has been your advice. It's just been
Yeah, and I say about myself, I try not to give advice. I'm just.
Well, words of wisdom. Words of wisdom.
What I want to thank you. Because you see, what you may not realize is to what degree you have invigorated and encouraged me. Just by initiating the conversation.
Well, thank you. That's beautiful. You're an amazing woman. I am just so honored to have spoken with you.
Well, if you think that, don't ever talk to my husband.
Well, you don't have to talk to mine either then.